Like I was told from a young age, when there's food on the table, you make the most of it because you don't know when you're going to get it again. Oh, I've got ambitions. I don't want this line to come to bite me in the arse one day, mate. Yeah. We won 3-0 and I think it was the best performance I've ever had. They reckon it was one of the best performances from a team in A-League history at that point.
This was not meant to happen. This could not happen. This is happening.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another very special edition of The Coach's Son Parks the Bus. We are delighted and privileged today to be joined by Diogo Ferreira. Diogo is a former A-League player, current A-League coach at Western United. He's experienced life as a footballer all over the globe, and he's also helping the youth today with his own football academy. Diogo, welcome to The Coach's Son Parks the Bus.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Mate, pleasure's all ours. I'd like to get the things rolling again, kick off the episode with asking a bit about how football came to you or how you got into football and a bit about what you're doing now as well.
Yeah, look, like every kid, I actually, funny enough, I did start playing in the backyard, but the reason I actually got into football, into a team, Essendon Royals, my first club, was I was into Little Laughs when I was younger, and for some reason I was quick. I quickly lost that as a player, but I was quick and I was, winning all these events and stuff, and it got to a point where my parents thought that I needed to be part of a team sport because I was getting a bit ahead of myself. So that's how football became part of my life, and I guess since then haven't really looked back. That's all I kind of know is football. Obviously played my juniors here in Australia. Eventually, the dream I had of playing as being a professional, that happened. Played overseas a little bit, and then it's a bit cliche this week because I heard Rúben Amorim, the new Manchester United coach, say this quote, but I've been using it for a long time, so I'm claiming it. But I guess I always knew I was going to be a better coach than footballer, so I kind of stopped quite early, and then just got into my coaching.
Beautiful. I mean, I think a few people obviously growing up playing and stuff like that get a feel and a vibe for coaching, whether they're good with people or they're really attracted to the tactical side or the development side of things. And I think you're seeing a lot of people now these days, especially coming through going, I might go the coaching route rather than the actual playing route.
Yeah, definitely. Look, there's some people that, for whatever reason, they can never have a footballing career, so they get started a little bit earlier and go down that coaching route straight away. Which I kind of envy now because I wish I had started coaching when I was 20. But, I guess as a player, you have different experiences, and I think that will help me in my coaching career. But yeah, for some reason, I knew from when I was young, I was 18 playing at Melbourne Victory, and I was running school holiday clinics and stuff like that down at Green Gully. I don't know, kind of just, no one pointed me in that direction. It's just something that I kind of always knew, and throughout my career, I actually took interest in what the coaches were saying. I remember I used to have books at home where I used to jot down the exercises we used to do at a professional level at all the clubs. So, I guess some people are born with that in them, that they, that they're destined to be something else rather than a footballer in the footballing world.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
15 years ago, it was weird to have a young coach. Think back when Andre Villas-Boas was at Chelsea and then went to Spurs. He was coaching players that were older than him. Back then, we thought it was weird. There's so many young coaches in the game now, which is great.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I guess, like we said, everyone's got a different path, and a lot of these really, really young coaches are people that have never played, or they fell out of the game for a serious injury or something like that. So, which is good to see, because I'm a big believer that you don't need to have been a player to be a good coach. I think it helps. It definitely helps. But there is people with massive amounts of knowledge out there that have never played the game, which is great.
Well, we'll take you back to your younger years, your teenage years. I think you were about 15 when you left Australia to go overseas. Going over to somewhere outside of Australia, to a foreign country. What was that like for such a young player? What were the biggest challenges that you faced?
Yeah, it was crazy. Look, to be honest, I can't even remember 100% because it feels like a lifetime ago. But, I remember I was 15. I was a bit of a mama's boy then, and I kind of had to grow up super quick, really, really quick. So, I ended up at FC Porto, and I was living in a house with, I don't know, 10, 12 other kids from around Portugal and some international players. And, there was some 13-year-olds there that had, they were much older in life than I was. It's so, like I said, I had to grow up really, really quickly, matured heaps as a person, and I guess as a player also.
Did you find there was a bit of a distance between you and the locals, so to speak, like the local kids that were playing there?
Yeah, massively. Like for me, I was the outsider. I was the Australian. I was the outsider. It wasn't very common to have an Australian playing at one of those kind of clubs. It was much more common to have someone from around Europe or a country that was a bit more known for their footballing, for their football, I guess. So, it was harder. I guess the thing that helped me a bit was obviously my background's Portuguese. So from day one, I could understand everything, and I could obviously communicate with all the players and staff and all that kind of stuff. So it was a bit of an easier transition for me, I guess, than other kids now going over to Europe at a young age that don't know the language. And yeah.
So at the beginning of your career and also the later end of your career, you were obviously overseas. Did you see the different side of football over there? If you put aside the physical attributes, did you see the mentality and the ambition over there as well? Was there a difference?
Yeah, it was. Like, at the end of the day, it's a way, like, as you guys know, and you've heard it 100 times, it's a way of life over there. I remember being at the bus stop and older ladies sitting on the bus stop with me, and they're speaking about football. So it's just a way of life. It's just completely different. You can't compare it. Obviously, I actually think now, having been involved in junior football a little bit more with kids here in Australia, I think that the kids here actually have great quality. Technically, there's kids here that match it with kids overseas. It's just for me, it's the technical understanding, it's the positional understanding. Over there, and I say it all the time, kids watch 3-4 games a week from their local club in their local area to Champions League to the whatever country they're in to Europa Leagues, so they're constantly watching players in their position. So I think that's one of the big differences for me from here in Australia to over in Europe.
100%. I agree. I remember going over in Greece and seeing 10 to 12-year-old kids over in Greece, comparing them to the kids here. The kids here are better. Athletically, skill-wise, are better at such a raw age. But it's the coaching they get, it's the environment that they're put in as well. It's that determination to think, well, this is my way out, not of poverty, but to get to a better life. When you get those things thrown into the mix, whereas football first and school second, compared to here, and the quality of coaching that they get between the ages of 12 to 16, they're playing first grade at 20 years old.
Yeah, it's different. Firstly, on the, some of these kids, and I played with a lot of kids overseas where I was good friends with some kids that came over from Africa, and this is from everywhere. It doesn't have to be just Africa, but it was just my teammates that I had, and little things like we would go and eat a pre-match meal 3.5 hours for the game, and they're eating like animals, and and I'm like, mate, are you all right? Like, how are you going to be able to run? And one of them said to me, he goes, look, I was told from a young age, when there's food on the table, you make the most of it because you don't know when you're going to get it again. So, and we can't replicate that here. We can't, like, it's things that I'm not going to make now I've got a daughter, I'm not going to make her starve so she can, have a bit more, drive. It's not realistic, but that's some of the things that I guess we're up against here. And then on the coaching side, you're saying about, them get really, really good coaching between those ages. The difference is there as well. There's, like, I guess here, if you're a half-decent coach or you want to be a coach, you try to go to the highest level you can. You try to get to senior football, where some coaches specialise in those age groups. You've got coaches that have their pro licenses over in Europe that are coaching under 12s because that's what they specialise in, and they're happy with that. So I think that's probably a big difference also from the coaching the kids get over here.
Was there anything you would have done differently going over there at a young age, and you would have come back, I think you may have been 18, 19 at the time? Is there anything you would have done differently while you were in Portugal?
Not really. Like, I guess you don't know what, like, the different, like, choices you make in life, but I kind of had a clear vision of the reason why I wanted to come back to Australia. And the reason was, like, back then, internet wasn't a big thing. So no one really knew where you were playing, what kind of level. the A-League had started, and I've always been quite a realistic person. I thought, if I can't make the A-League, what am I doing over here? That was my mentality. And also there was a Olympics coming up for the under-23s. And I knew like I said, there was these days we know where every Australian kid is playing overseas. Back then you didn't. So that was another reason why I decided to come back, is hopefully get in the A-League and hopefully get that exposure to be in the Ollie Roos team, I guess.
So fast forwarding a little bit, you made your way down to Asia for a little while. How was that transition down there as well? Because recently we actually had a former player, Dylan Wenzel, he's moved over to Malaysia now.
Yeah.
And you can just see it even when he's over there, the heat conditions and probably the language barrier as well. Did you find that hard when you were over there?
Yeah, it was, but I love it. Like, he's actually at Penang, so I was at that club.
Yeah.
He's at the same club. Yeah, so for me, it just got to the stage where, I was super professional. I took it really serious, my football, too serious, I think. But it got to a point in the A-League where it was just becoming a bit stale for me, I guess, and I just wanted something different. I love Asia. I've always loved going on holidays to Southeast Asia as well, so I like the different culture, and, it was a fresh start. It was something different, something interesting. Like, I guess here in the A-League, back then anyway, I could tell you what every single team's doing on any particular day, because it was just the same training sessions. Everything was the same. And I got that. I went to Indonesia. I went to a team called Persib Bandung, and it was a massive club, millions of, literally, I think on their Facebook, they've got 3, 4, 5 million followers. It's, we had people at training every day. And funny enough, we played a game. So the next day we went to training, and I'm thinking it's just recovery. And we started doing sprints. And I'm like, you know what? This makes no sense, but I like it. It's something different. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So it took a little bit to get used to, but I'm happy and I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to go to Asia.
Well, you actually hear it a lot. People actually regret not going abroad when those opportunities sort of come up. I think loyalty tends to come into it a little bit, and they try to keep at the clubs that they're at, and they probably miss the experiences they could have. Yeah,
and obviously it depends what kind of money you're on also. I also, that was something that took me there. I knew I could get more money there, and I kind of, I came to a point in my A-League career that I'm like, I'm not really kicking on massively here. So it was kind of just, I just took the opportunity and just kind of went with it.
You mentioned earlier you kind of knew coaching was probably more for you than playing. Did you know at that time as well? Did that make up your decision to go abroad, to learn something different? You said you were doing the same stuff here in Australia. Did you think, okay, I can go learn something in different countries and bring that back for my own coaching experience?
Look, to be honest, not really. Like, now that I have done it, I have taken some things out of the places I've been to. But by saying that, and you speak to a lot of people that have been over to Southeast Asia and stuff, it's not always the best coaching, to be honest. It's not always the best coaching. So I didn't learn a whole heap over there, I guess, in that aspect.
No.
You learn what not to do.
I could tell you stories. Like, we used to catch the bus to training every day, and we used to get like police escorts. This was in Indonesia, and like on the way back from training, there I am with my protein shake in my hand, and we're literally, the bus pulls over on the side of the road. They go out, they all get fried chicken, bring it back into the bus. They're all eating, they're all happy. You know what I mean? It's
wild.
It's a different world. That's a different world.
It would have been a good experience. You touched on playing for the Australia under-23s. You probably would have played with some good players as well at that level. Was anyone besides yourself that really went on to make a name for himself?
Yeah, maybe as a coach. Hopefully I'll make it. No, in that team I had, obviously there was good players. You got players that are still playing. You got Aziz Behic that was in that team. Aaron Moy that just obviously retired. There was quite a few. Look, we didn't actually get a point in qualification, so we didn't score a goal. So maybe not the best crop, but there was a few. There was some really good players and players that are still obviously playing in the A-League now also.
Well, any chance you get to represent Australia, I mean, it's a big deal, right?
Yeah, I guess I never saw it like that when I was a player, because you just kind of, you always just want more, and you don't really take time to reflect and think about it. And still today, like when I'm speaking to my wife and she speaks to me about my career, I always say that I think it was a disaster, my career. But still, when you do think about it, like sometimes when you actually sit down and say you represented your country at whatever level it is, it's something that I guess I am proud of.
100%. You think about the small percentage of population that actually gets to achieve that, right? It's huge. Something definitely should be proud of.
Definitely.
The question gets always asked for like dual citizens, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're probably eligible to play for Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
Had the moment arisen, Portugal, Australia, because I've had this conversation before with a couple other guests. You got approached by both nations. Who would you go for, Portugal or Australia?
It's a tough one, but if I got approached by both nations, then that means my footballing's at a certain level. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Look, if I reckon it's funny because when I'm here, when I was younger, I'm Portuguese. So here I'm
Yep.
Portuguese, yeah. When I was younger, as soon as I went over there, I had the Adidas Copa Mundiais, 3 stripes, and one I had AUS written on it. So when I'm over there, now I'm Aussie. So if I grew up in Portugal, I'd probably say I'd play for Australia because you always kind of what you don't have, what's a bit different, I guess.
We had the similar conversation with Adrian Del Monte, who's a presenter over at ESPN and all the big channels over in Italy. He's an Aussie boy, and he's presenting over interviewing the biggest stars over in Italy. And we asked the same question, like, who do you support, Australia or Italy, when they're playing against each other? And it's interesting because he says, well, I grew up supporting Italy. And he's fully taken over his Aussie, where I had them before I went overseas to Greece. It was kind of like I'd play for Greece Euro Cup and all that sort of stuff. But then you realise you're not actually Greek. Like these kids here that grow up, that are born there, they eat the food, they do everything there. You realise how much of an Aussie you are, and I would think, if I had the choice, I'd pick Australia. This is where I've grown up. This is where I'm from.
Yeah, it's fair, and like it just depends where you're at. You've got Valpano, or whatever his name is, over in Italy, doing massive things there, and I guess you kind of want to play at the highest level possible for your club and for a national team also. So it's like, I don't know. I can see it both ways. I can see it both ways.
Last,
All right, I'm going to flip that question.
Big questions here, the tough ones.
Yeah. I'm going to flip that question and say, 15 years' time, you've won the A-League 10 times in a row. Mm-hmm. Portugal come knocking, or Australia come knocking. What are you taking?
Again, no, that's hard. It's hard.
like rubbing a magic ball.
You know why? I've got ambitions. I don't want this guy to come to bite me in the arse like that. So I don't know if I should say the diplomatic thing or what I actually feel. Again, I'm Aussie. I represented Australia as a player. Would be great to represent Australia as a coach. But again, if we're talking about, you get one career the same as you have as a football, and you always strive for the biggest and the best and try to do everything, then at the moment, and I'm guessing in 15 years, Portugal's at a different level to Australia. That's the reality of world football. So for me, I would be saying I'm striving for the biggest that I can get. So I'd probably be Portugal.
100%. As soon as you finish your playing career, you jump straight into coaching, which is no surprise. Coach a couple of school teams, college teams, and you started your own academy, which you mentioned at the top of the pod, DF Football. Tell us a bit about DF Football.
Yeah, look, I came back from after Japan, and I kind of just started doing a little bit of just some people asked me to do some one-on-ones, and it wasn't until Bruno Fornaroli actually, he was in between, he was Melbourne City and Perth Glory. So it was a time where he was having a bit of issues. He already signed for Perth Glory, but he was still here in Melbourne for 2 months or something like that. So he approached me, and I kind of done his full-time one-on-one coaching. Obviously, at that time, Popper was at Perth, so I was all communicating with him also with the program and all that kind of stuff. And from that, it kind of just all the one-on-ones and all that kind of stuff, and the academy just gained massive traction. All the A-League players, Socceroos players, whenever they needed extra training, they would come and see me. And then it's normal that if you're doing that kind of profile of players, that all the kids and are going to want it also. So that's kind of where it started again, with no plan. With everything I've done until today has been with no plan. Things that just kind of happened naturally. And now I'm at the point where I'm slowly starting to get a little bit closer to achieving or on the path that I want to be on in terms of coach. So I guess everything I do on the side, it's literally now it's just to help as many kids as I can. And I always say it's to get kids prepared. Obviously, I've been the under-23s coach at Western United, and I see some limitations or some of the things we're still teaching those kids at that age. I want to try and help, even if it is one kid, get to that age and not have some of those limitations, I guess.
I've got another big question, hard-hitting question for on the spot here. Mr. Diogo Ferreira, DF Football, how did you come up with the name, mate?
That just shows how organised and planned this was. I was actually sitting down with my wife and we're like, oh, maybe we need to create something here. So she gets on the, I don't know what she was using on her phone. DF Football, perfect, let's roll with it. It's funny, I quickly, especially in the initial years, I quickly regretted that because obviously it was my name. And then everyone that rang always wanted me because I was the face of it. So I'm like, I need to rebrand here. But luckily, over time, I've had really good coaches with me and a really good program. And it's, the best phone calls I used to get was when I'm saying my name. They're like, oh, nice to meet you. Like, they actually didn't call to speak to me. They didn't know who I was. Like, they didn't know DF was me. So I'm like, perfect.
You mentioned before, obviously, coaching. Some of the best coaches never played the game or had limited experience playing the game. Regarding talent identification, would you say that's something that's important, that you need to have played the game to recognise talent that's coming through, or is it something that you can learn those skills?
I'm a believer that you can learn those things. I'm a believer that you can learn in terms of talent identification. One thing that you can't replicate is the feeling of being a player and knowing how certain individuals are feeling at different times, when they're left out of the squad, when they're not in, when they're being released, when you're signing players, things that, and that's something that I kind of said to myself when I started my coaching career is, I want to make sure I don't do things that I didn't like the coaches done to me, or the way they treated other players and stuff like that. So I think that kind of stuff, you would have had to have been a player to truly know what someone's going through, to truly know what someone that's out of contract in 6 months' time or at the end of the year, what they're feeling now. A lot of people be like, it's only round 4. We've only played 4 rounds. They're not thinking about next year. No, they're thinking about next year. And the more games they go and you're attacking play and you're not scoring goal, you're thinking, oh shit, next year, what's going to happen? What's my value? Where am I? Where am I going to be? Like, I guess those kind of things, you can kind of think you know what it feels like, but until you've been in that position, you'll never know. So I guess that's where the little upper hand comes in when you've been a player.
Now, we're seeing a lot of younger players breaking through to the A-Leagues in the last few years. Has there been a mentality shift with younger players where, years ago, I'd think, once you get into those teenage years, you want to go overseas. That's where your mind is at. Any opportunity you get to go overseas. Has there been a mentality shift where kids actually want to stay here and play here and reach the A-League?
Look, I think if you speak to every kid, I think their ambition is to play overseas. And I feel like they shouldn't look too far ahead. They should think, okay, I would love to play in the A-League and then beyond that. But their ambition is, again, if they're an athlete, if they're driven in that way, their ambition should be to get to the highest they can get. I just think that now, I think the kids are realising that it's a good platform and a good stepping stone, that you can go over to Europe and at times you can get lost over there. And there's a lot of people playing in Europe and all these kids can go to Europe. But what level are they playing at? You know what I'm saying? And they can very quickly get lost amongst everyone there. So I think the A-League's a really good stepping stone, and you can see it now more and more, I guess, because of the way the A-League's going in terms of financially. More kids are getting opportunities, and you'll see more kids that we actually have, like we spoke about earlier, we've got good quality here, that you'll see more and more kids, using it as a massive stepping stone to go overseas.
Well, you mentioned earlier when you came back to Australia from Portugal, no one really knew who you were because there wasn't much social media. I think people in the A-League now, young kids coming through, they've got that platform now where they can advertise themselves, and people in Asia, in Europe, anywhere across the world can see you without really seeing you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And these days you've got I can go on Y Scout and I can look up someone's name and I can find out all the information, watch all their clips or watch everything. No longer are the days where, funny story, I had a teammate in Perth where he told me a story about he was a Serbian, good friend of mine, Nebor Marinkovic. And back in the day, he reckons there was a guy in his team, his defensive midfielder, and he looked exactly the same as the number 10, and he got a massive transfer off a video because he had his clips as a defensive midfielder, and in the same video as him, the other guy is a 10, but they look the same, same build, same everything, you know what I mean? So gone are those days, so now you can, anyone can look you up, anyone can research you, so, it's much easier. If you're doing well, it's much easier to get those opportunities to take that step.
So not everyone's career sort of ends in the most positive note. Everyone has difficulties along the way. Was there ever a time that you might have been done with the game, or was coaching always part of your journey?
Nah, I always knew that it was going to be part of I think that's kind of all I know in life is football, as sad as that sounds. But, you grow up in it, you dedicate your whole life to it, and it kind of, if you're truly passionate about something, there's other people that aren't. They just have their career, they have great careers, and they just stop, which is also fine. But I think I always knew that I was going to continue in it. It came a time in Japan when, I got injured there quite early. And I kind of went through a little bit of a tough time there on pitch. I couldn't get on the pitch for the injury, that bit of a strange one that I had, that I kind of realised, it's probably time now just to start getting a head start on everyone and getting because I guess everyone in my generation was going to probably start going into coaching. So it was a good little head start for me, finishing up a little bit earlier.
Couldn't have anything to do with your bad grades at school or anything. You were like, no, I want to do football.
I think I was going to say I finished year 10, but I think my mum finished year 10 for me. Online distance education. So yeah, it wasn't the greatest. I wasn't the greatest.
There could be worse ways to say
football.
But you know what? I'm worldly. That's what I always say. But I'm worldly at least.
There could be worse ways to stay football, like us, say, up till 3 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning watching Spurs lose to Ipswich at home. So
that is true.
There's worse ways to stay involved in the game.
I had to change my shirt before I came on. I had to put this fella on me.
I don't blame
mate.
I don't
More of
blame
those.
you. Yeah.
Jumping back into your coaching, you progressed pretty quickly when you joined to Western United. Tell us a bit how the opportunity came out when you got to join the coaching staff there.
Yeah, look, I just I got approached by Anthony Frost, which is the academy director now. He was heading up the youth team. Obviously, football's a small world, and I guess that the word goes around of what you're doing and the one-on-ones and all that kind of stuff. I also had him. He was a coach educator, so I had him on one of my coaching licenses, and I guess I might have put on a decent session or something. I don't know. He kind of called me and gave me that opportunity to go into the youth team. So that's how it all started. Yeah, I went in as assistant. The year after, he went full-time to the academy director role. So obviously I took over the team the following year, and I've kind of progressed. Yes, people say it's quick. For me, it hasn't been quick because, like I said, you get impatient I know you need to have patience, but even as a footballer, you want to get to the high of heights as quick as you can. So I feel like things have happened, quite smoothly. I wouldn't say fast. They've kind of happened quite smoothly.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, you're only 35, right? It's still, how old's Ronaldo? He's still playing. He's almost 40. Surely at training, you still get stuck in with the boys. Give him a nice little tackle here and there.
Nah, I can't move like I used to move, so I kind of stick to my strengths now. I don't really get involved that much anymore. Sometimes, to be honest, when it's a really nice day and the pitch is unbelievable, even we played at Cooper Stadium on the weekend, obviously beautiful stadium, you're standing out there ready to take the warm-up or whatever it is, and you're kind of remembering and you're like, far out. I just wish, what always goes through my head is, and I say it to some of the young players, like, I just wish I could potentially have that opportunity again, but not be as worried and stressed about how I was going to perform and just play. Just play. Like at the end of the day, especially here in Australia, there's not massive, you're not going to be in the newspaper. It's not Portugal where there's 3 newspapers the next day writing about you. The pressure's not unbelievable. So it's just about, I just wish I kind of had that time again, enjoyed it a little bit more maybe.
We know you still have those custom Copa Mundials in the back of your car. Just waiting for the day.
Nah, I'm moved now. I'm on the Diodoras now.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
You got to go for the Puma Kings. The big players are the Puma Kings. Me, Maradona, you name it.
I was going to mention earlier, actually, in the when we talking about you being 15 years old, moving overseas, but it's probably something you tell your younger kids now. Like, is there something that you would have told yourself now that after all this, your career you've been through, playing career, now your coaching career, that you would have told yourself 20 years ago? That a little bit of advice.
Honestly, for me, the biggest advice, if I could give it back to myself, would be just to, as strange as it's going to be, not take it as serious and just enjoy a little bit more at certain times. I was someone that was, super professional, weighed my food and knew exactly what I was having, the grams, the water I was intaking, the sleep I was having. Like I went to that kind of extreme because I thought, I need to maximize my potential. So, and at times I look back and I'm like, yeah, was that really worth it? Not worth it, but could I have got the same outcomes or maybe better outcomes if I didn't put so much pressure on myself to take everything super serious? And I kind of worked that out later on in my career. It wasn't until, funny enough, I was at Brisbane Roar, and New Year's was, I think, 3 days before we came over here and played against Melbourne Victory. And we're sitting on the couch, and we're like, all right, let's have a bit of a New Year's party or whatever it was. So we did, and I'm not a drinker, never have been, but I drank a little bit, but nothing too serious. Anyways, we came, and majority of the team were there. 3 days later, we played Melbourne Victory at Amy Park. We won 3-0, and I think it was the best performance I've ever had. They reckon it was one of the best performances from a team in A-League history at that point. So I think that I'm like, maybe I can take it a little bit easier.
So rather than post-games parties, you're recommending pre-game parties then?
Nah, I don't give that recommendation. But it's advice that I give the kids now. It's like, and I struggle with a little bit because I'm expecting all the younger kids to be as professional as I was. And you got to realize that everyone's different, but trying to get that professionalism out of them. But at the same time, when there is times to just relax a bit, because it's stressful, man. It's a 20, like people think, it's easy. You go to training 2 hours, you go home. Like, it's a 24-hour thing. You're constantly thinking about it. You have a shit session, you're thinking about it for the rest of the day. It's not as easy as people think. So when there is those downtimes, you can enjoy yourself. It doesn't mean by drinking, I'm not saying that, but you can go out and have a nice dinner and reward yourself a bit, and I guess do that, have that balance, which is important.
As you continue to grow in your coaching journey, is there any goals that you might have or some aspirations still?
Everything that I've done to today, I've got goals in the back of my head that I kind of don't share with anyone, but things have kind of just happened naturally for me. So it's like, I think it's just step at a time. I know that with coaching, especially being an Australian coach, there's stepping stones, and we've seen it with, you've seen it with Muskie, you've seen it with Ange, you've seen it with some of these people, that the reality is I want to coach in Europe one day. That's the honest truth. And I feel like all the players the same, you should have that ambition. If you don't have that ambition, I think there's something wrong with you. But I know there is stepping stones to getting there. So I know it potentially is through the A-League into Asia, and then maybe going down that path, whatever it might be.
You probably couldn't have picked a better coach to be next to be honest, with Aloisi along the way.
Yeah, no, I'm really grateful. Since day one, obviously now it's a bit different because I'm the assistant now or whatever, but from day one, even when I was as the youth coach, luckily with my academy on the side, I could have the time during the day off. So I was down at first team training every day, and slowly I started from behind the fence watching training. Slowly I got invited onto the pitch, fetching some balls, and from then it's kind of the relationship and the trust is grown. And I've learned I've learned a whole heap off all the coaches in the first team, but especially John.
We've come to the big moment of the episode. I know you're a bit nervous before the start. We mentioned the coach's son
I'm
question.
still rattled with it. I don't know. I don't know what to say yet.
I'm still rattled.
Adam's sweating. Put the aircon on Adam.
Waiting for you.
What we want to know is, so for everyone listening, quick reminder, coach's son, teacher's pet, you're thinking, how is that bloke starting? He must be the coach's son. Or maybe there's someone who's a bit of a joker around the place, right? A bit of a character. Who is your coach's son?
I'm still rattled.
Probably like the first name that just comes to mind that you had a laugh with back in the day.
Oh, so it's back in not who's my son
Anyone.
as a coach.
No. Like
whatever
anyone
you want.
that across
So you played
along
with
your journey.
years ago.
Yeah, along your journey.
I'm trying to think of the furthest person that will listen to this or somehow. So
We're reaching millions.
but I'm going to say
They're going to listen.
some guy in Malaysia or something that will never listen to this.
It's actually even the best. All the boys that we've managed to get on from the club
Yeah.
that nominated, we've managed to get them on the next following week.
Oh, no. No chance, man. Wow. Actually, man, honestly, let me think back.
He's going to think back to his Portugal days. Someone that's probably playing the national
man.
team now.
Bad. Oh, it's not easy.
No, it's
It's
not.
actually not easy.
You know what's
There's
funny?
too many of them.
You know what? We usually, when we ask the players, right, they got straight away, they go, oh, I got two straight away off the top of the head. I don't know which one to pick.
Yeah, I've probably got a couple, but I don't really want to share them. I'll be honest. That's my issue. That's my
And to
issue.
save space.
Why do we do this?
Keep it anonymous, but can you say why? Can you say why they would be your nominations, but don't say their name?
All right, that's quite easy. That's quite easy. Good. What am I going to say? Past player that was obviously a teammate that ended up being a coach, and really close to that player when he was a player, and kind of done everything for that player. Anything that player would ask for. Example: go buy a coffee. Off they went, and then became
Perfect.
a coach. So, and then he was then he was the coach.
Alright, we've got to do some digging here. We're going to go through your career and find it.
Every single player.
Try and find it.
Wikipedia straight after
Yeah,
it.
you try and find it.
Well,
No, it's a tough one.
Well,
That's a real tough
it
one.
is.
If you're going to say,
it is.
mate, I was the S&C's son because I was the ball breaker. Because, again, I wanted to get the most out of myself, so I was asking for personalised programs. I was asking for this and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Basically nominating yourself, which means later down the track, we'll get you back on.
Yeah. Done.
Oh, Diogo, thank you very much, man, for your time. It's been
Pleasure.
a great episode and a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, guys. Really appreciate it. And, yeah, all the best.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, you too.
Cheers.
Good luck for the rest of the season as well.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
mate.
This was not meant to happen. This could not